Hello, Duelist. With Orcust still being a tier 1 deck and it just taking over the meta, we're seeing it a ton in ranked duels. We're going to be seeing it in the World Championship. It's getting a ton of play in tournaments. It's probably not going anywhere for a while. We're seeing the deck played in 5, 10, 15 different ways. I've showed off a few on this channel, but everyone has their own version of the deck, and I think the creativity is good. Is it the most skillful deck to play? Not really, but I think some of the skill you can demonstrate is showing a few of the kind of novelty cards that you can include in your deck there. So what I wanted to do today is show off 10 cards that you can consider adding to your Orcus deck. Some of these are a little bit common, but I think they've had kind of revamped use cases based on, developments or releases within the game. And some are not particularly common, but I think are worth consideration and a tweak you can make, even if it's only including one of them, to get your deck to the next level there. Now these cards are not ranked from like most useful to least useful. I've added these 10 just to a deck here, so it's easy to work through them, but I'm going to go in that order. So let me know your thoughts. Would you use these? Would you not? Anything like that. Appreciate the feedback. The first card being Gizmek Kaku. I'm surprised this card actually doesn't get more play in the meta in general. If you have a card in the extra monster zone, either player that is, you can special summon it from your hand. You can actually steal one card from an extra monster zone and equip it to the card. And if the card then destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon one of the equipped cards. So you basically can steal a card and then special summon it. And with it having 2750 attack and defense, pretty easy for it to destroy something by attacking. So very, very powerful. I get it. If you have a couple of these, it could decrease the consistency of your deck, because like you're not going to be tribute summoning to bring it out or anything like that. But having one in just the right circumstance can really save you there. The next card we have up is Desperado Barrel Dragon. I've only seen this played like one time, and I think there could be a lot of potential, especially if you're only playing one of them. The effect basically, if you have a face-up dark machine type monster and it's destroyed by battle or card effect, so basically just goes to the graveyard, other than by another ding, because it's technically not destroying. You can special summon from your hand, so again, special summoning from the hand, very, very powerful. Once per turn, and this is where it's just killer. During the battle phase, you can toss coins 3 times, and based on the number of heads, you can destroy that many monsters up to the field, on the field. So you're flipping three coins. If you get 2 heads, you can destroy 2 opponent's monsters on the battle phase just for free. You can get up to 3. If you get 3, you can draw a card, but it's a nice to have, and like your opponent can't go through a battle phase without probably something getting destroyed, because it's very, very rare that you're going to have all 3 tails, and can just be very destructive for that reason. Next card, Machina Fortress. This is getting a little bit of play, but I definitely wanted to highlight it. You can discard machine-type monsters whose total level are 8 or more, then special summon this card from your hand or graveyard. Now, I'll even pause there because you want to get Orcust monsters from your hand to the graveyard, so you can just immediately discard 2 of them. If it's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls and destroy it. And you can discard 1 card from their hand as well. So again, 2,500 attack points, you can destroy a card, but really being able to discard and give Orcust a way to get to the graveyard is powerful in itself. So a couple different effects that are just very nice to have. And these next handful of cards are more on the defensive side. Now, if you've played Orcust, you've probably run into a few turns where, if you can't get anything to the graveyard immediately, let's say you play Phantom Skyblaster, or your opponent Book of Moons you, and it just kind of shuts you out there, and you have to end your turn and are hoping for the best, not to get OTK'd basically. Now, this is one card that could really help you there. During either player's turn, if your opponent special summons 3 or more monsters, you can special summon the card from your hand. Really, really nice hand effect there, basically a hand trap. And it can basically turn into a wall where, your opponent isn't expecting it and is not able to often get it off the field in one turn there. It has 2,800 defense points, so you're going to have to do a little bit of work to remove it. Or even if your opponent can get it off the field, it's one more powerful monster in the way of them attacking your life points directly. So definitely consider playing it. I know there are people that are playing like 3 of these right now. It just makes a wall of like stuff for your opponent to get through to really attack you, and one more turn for you to get back to trying to bring out Ding and all that fun stuff. So really good consideration there. And similarly, we have Kite Roy. There are decks playing 2 of these right now. I don't need to explain Kite Roy too much, but it's really just going to save your backside if your opponent's getting an attack off on you and probably save you for one more turn to be able to get back. And as you know with Orcust, if you have one turn, that's often enough to be a really good resource and or enough to be able to access your resources, I should say. And you can string together a lot of special summoning and all of those things within one turn. So you might only have to be saved one turn to turn everything around. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of this card, but there are people that swear by it, and will have up to 3 of them in their deck. And this is Mind Control. You can target a card your opponent controls. It can't attack or be tributed, but it can activate effects, um, which can be nice. Obviously, it depends on where you use it. You're going to want to use it on your opponent's strongest card for sure. But beyond like being able to activate an effect, it really works nicely of just taking your opponent's strongest card and getting it out of the way. Whether it has an effect that would activate, when you attack, whether there's an effect that would stop you from like zapping a spell or trap or anything like that. When you go to have the battle phase, you just have one less monster in the way of attacking and can make your life a lot easier and really lead to OTKs a little bit easier. So that is why I think Mind Control is a good good option to consider. It's just you're going to be competing with those other limited 3 cards that you may or may not be including. Dark Hole, very straightforward, but I think that the reason it is probably worth considering now more than kind of previously is for the Odd Eyes decks. When Odd Eyes Challenger came out a couple weeks ago, very, very common to play now. We're going to be seeing it all over the World Championship, and I think one of the weaknesses of that Odd Eyes deck is, let's say your opponent goes first, it can set up defensively, and bring out Xyz monsters, can bring out a lot of stuff to try to stop you from using monster effects and destroying things you have in the field. If you play one Dark Hole, a lot of their stuff is gone, because most of those decks are not playing back row cards or at least a lot of them, to kind of slow you down. It's usually just like a Cosmic Cyclone, and they're usually relying on monster effects to like stop you from summoning or accessing your graveyard, things like that. But there's typically not something that's going to stop you from playing a spell card, and usually only one of those cards is able. Well, let's say it's the second turn of the duel and it's your turn. You just play a Dark Hole. It's usually only one of those cards is going to be summoned from the extra deck from your opponent, meaning everything else that's destroyed is going to go to the graveyard, and the strength of that deck is being able to bring so many monsters out, and this is obviously a clear way to get so many off the field very, very quickly. So worth considering, I think, more than before, and I think with Speedroid, this could be something that works too, where it is susceptible to kind of spell and traps, where the Clearwing Dragon and kind of the other synchro monsters there are going to be stopping monster effects, but they're not going to be stopping spell or traps. So as much as that deck is playing like Forbidden Lands to stop these things, it is definitely worth at least trying with Dark Hole. And for similar reasoning, I think Needle Sealing has kind of added benefit or increased kind of value than before, where if you can get 1 or 2 Orcust monsters out in the field, your opponent is playing an Odd Eyes deck, like you can easily get 4 or more monsters in the field. And with this, if you trigger the card, now with this or Dark Hole, you can use Ding's effect to just to negate Ding from being destroyed and, destroy everything else and then leave your strongest monster out in the field. That's big trouble. So, yeah. Double Magical Armband. This is a little of a novelty for sure. I've seen some players use it, and it's pretty aggressive. I don't know how else to say it. So you tribute 2 of your monsters, then target 2 face-up monsters your opponent controls, and you take the control of them to the end of your end phase. But you can do anything with them. You can attack with them. You can use them to special summon anything, tribute summon, link summon, whatever. Now, the reason this is a little more valuable than like purely just what it reads here is there are some circumstances where you want a creative way to get Ding off the field, get it to your graveyard, that way you can bring it back again using like Simple Skeleton. And this does that for sure. Obviously you need 2 face-up monsters, not just Ding, but that's not too hard to do by any means. So you have those 2, you steal 2 of your opponents, you can do whatever you want with them. You can bring Ding back again if your opponent has more cards in the field. Whatever it may be, this is a really helpful way to clear off the field there. And last, and certainly not least, as we see on the limited 2 list, so this would be competing with Kite Roy if you chose to include it, but this is one of those save your tail cards for a turn. So Hollowed Life Barrier, we're going to discard one card, and you no longer take damage from your opponent cards this turn, and also your monsters can't be destroyed by battle. So they are susceptible to card effects, but you essentially won't lose the duel by battle and get to live on. And of course, that added benefit, where again with Orcust, this really is a benefit of discarding one card because you're trying to find as many creative ways to get those Orcust monsters to your graveyard as possible. So with that, this is 10 cards that you should consider adding to your Orcust deck. And again, let me know your thoughts. Are these ones that you would consider? Are they ones you're already using? Or do they seem like total trash to you? Hope you've enjoyed.